The North Korean position is we are a nuclear weapons state, and our nuclear weapons are developed for use against the United States of America, if necessary. Deal with that new reality. You see the problem here. We've been, in one way or another, negotiating with North Korea now for 65 years. Those were the beginning of the negotiations to end the Korean War. We are still obviously in a state of war with North Korea. They are particularly determined to not only to continue to build their nuclear and missile capabilities, but to keep them in perpetuity. The media has been full of stories suggesting that somehow the North Koreans are prepared to negotiate away their nuclear weapons and missile programs in return for security guarantees of some sort. That has been the objective of U.S. policy for 25 years. Ironically, North Korea is probably further away from any possible decision to give up its nuclear weapons than it has ever been. If you listen carefully to what the North Koreans are actually saying, there's no expressed intention at all on the part of North Koreans to denuclearize. Quite the contrary. My concern is that the United States government may be operating under a false assumption, believing that the North Korean leader is coming to the table to negotiate a process that would lead to the elimination of his nuclear weapons. The short-term goal for the North Koreans is to gain legitimacy and acceptance of their nuclear weapons program. They then would use the fact that they are now a de facto nuclear weapon state to intimidate and blackmail their neighbors, including South Korea and possibly also Japan. The longer-term goal is to achieve the unification of the Korean Peninsula under North Korea. The ideal scenario is that somehow the North Korean leader would have had a radical change of heart and he would agree to give up his nuclear weapons. That's not going to happen. Probably the most realistic, favorable scenario is that the two leaders meet, they lay out their positions. We discover that the North Koreans are not interested in the sort of denuclearization that we are interested in, and the meeting breaks up and the United States goes back to the policy that it is implementing now, which is to put overwhelming pressure on the North Korean regime to compel them to change their minds and change their approach. But there's another problem here. The very idea of having a presidential summit with the North Koreans has given them a legitimacy. You don't engage in presidential level summitry unless you know what the outcome is going to be. And you don't engage in presidential level summitry unless your adversary also has a similar idea of what the outcome is that you're seeking. That does not exist here. Not only does it not exist here, you have two negotiating partners that will sit down at the same table in the coming weeks, if the summit happens, who have diametrically opposed and confrontationally opposed positions about denuclearization. If it turns out badly, could get people killed.
Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself and for his regime. The United States is ready, willing, and able, but hopefully this will not be necessary.